And we are recording. Hey, Adam, how are you, sir?
Good, Michael. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, brother. And I really appreciate you taking the time on a Sunday because we're recording this on a Sunday to be on the show today. And this is going to be a fun show. We're going to talk about paranormal investigation. We may talk about a few other things, but I want to focus on the paranormal because I find it so fascinating. But I have to ask you a question. How did you come up with the name Black Swamp Medium? It sounds like a rock band.
I gotcha. But also, Michael, thank you so much for having me on today. I really appreciate it, and I am excited to be here and have a chat with you. Yeah, the Black Swamp Medium. So what happens is, my name, my real last name is difficult. When you look at it, it doesn't look complicated, but when you try to say it, it messes everybody up. And so the idea behind Black Swamp was to come up with something that was a little bit more of a catch name, so people would be like, oh, I can remember how to say that instead of trying to spell my name out. Because if I was to do a spelling or a website that has my last name involved in it, people would be screwing it up and never get to it, and then they're not going to be mad at me. So because my last name's Wcislek, and but people don't know that the C is silent, so you don't say it. So it's Wcislek, and it's a Polish last name, but it just screws people up bad. So, but the concept was, I live in Northwest Ohio, and way back there used to be a great swamp, and they called it the Black Swamp, and it went from all the way from about Cleveland all the way west just into Indiana. So it's about like 220 some miles of black swamp. I mean, it was just everything, because all the stuff around here now that they dried it out, which the farmers did back in the 1800s, we have all this clay, so it's really kind of a pain. It's great for growing things, but trying to do any other yard work is ridiculous. But I wanted to pay homage to where I live, because some people do, some people don't, but I appreciate where I've grown up my whole life and still live here. And I thought it was kind of fun to kind of throw that name in there. So yeah, Adam the Black Swamp Medium.
I like that. Yeah, when I first heard it, I was like, okay, is that part of a rock band? Or is he from? Because when I think of Black Swamp, I'm thinking more like Louisiana. I'm
Sure.
thinking like Creole or stuff like that, or
Yep.
even maybe in like Florida. And I
Yeah.
was like, okay, this is kind of. But then I found he's from Ohio.
Yep.
I don't know. Is there swamps in Ohio? And it's like I don't remember that much being in Ohio.
Right.
But that's really really cool. So how
Yeah.
did you get into paranormal investigation? Were you a psychic medium first, then got into paranormal investigation, or you were kind of like, this stuff's really cool, let me kind of look at this?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was born in the mid 70s, and so during the 80s, some of the earliest documentaries of paranormal, started to pop up, and all of us that are up there in age kind of remember some of those, and certain certain shows like Unsolved Mysteries was a big one, and when they would throw paranormal episodes in there, or some once in a blue moon you'd see some actual like investigators getting together, and it was just always fascinating. And growing up, I never had anything paranormal, not a single thing. The one thing that did started to happen was some psychic abilities. But growing up, I grew up in a religious family and things, and so you just don't say that are strange, taboo kind of subjects, and so you never brought it up, and so I kept it to myself. But the fascination of paranormal was there, because I was like, that'd be kind of cool. I'd love to be able to interact with something, or the classic, I want to get touched by a ghost or something. And I just was so fascinated. So grew up, went through high school, graduated, went to college, graduated, and then it was pretty much actually what my one of my the year I was at college, I had my first experience, and it was one of those that I've looked back on it, and it was either true paranormal or it was a spirit guide coming through. And I still kind of weigh between the two, but it was the first time of ever truly feeling or seeing something, because I was we didn't have dorms. We actually had to have apartments. So I was sitting in my apartment, in my bedroom, and I had a roommate, and we were across the halls from each other's, apartment. My door to go out into the living room, kitchen area, and stuff like that. Well, I saw something hanging out in the wall, and I kind of caught it out of the corner of my eye. So I'm looking, and I kind of glance over, and all I see is this shadow person up on the wall, and it does this wave at me, and I went, I kind of like stood back a second and going, what? And so then, I jump out of the chair, I go into the room thinking it's my roommate just playing like a shadow work thing or something, because all the light was coming from the kitchen, which was just like a oven light, or a stove light. Uh-oh. Oh, sorry. Something weird happened. But yeah, so
maybe
it
it's
was
spirit already bugging us.
Yeah, maybe they heard me, but but it was so fascinating to see that. And I looked around and I realized my roommate was, in their room and quiet. And I'm like, okay. So I just kind of left it alone. Like I didn't experience anything further. Then fast forward, get out of college, get married, settling down. This is starting to get into the early 2000s. Well, during that point is when the very first reality shows came out. And we all know the big one was Ghost Hunters. And so was glued to it. I was just like, so cool. I remember, these things growing up, the documentaries. And I thought, man, this is kind of neat. They're really like, people are really doing this, because you just don't see a lot. And, social media was still, exploding and moving forward. So the more I saw these shows, the more I wanted to get into it. And then eventually it did, and then that was another fascinating story of how that unfolded. So, but yeah, like I said, it was just kind of a cool progression as the years went on. And then finally I had opportunities to do it. And so I was, and to answer your original question is, yeah, it was mostly looking to be an investigator, really get in there, hold the equipment, run around, feel this and check this meter and record that video, all that stuff that you do as an investigator. So it was an investigator first before the mediumship came through.
Okay. Yeah, because it's always interesting. I know a lot of people usually sometimes their gifts will show up first, and this way they can, they can identify what is spirit, what is a ghost, what is a spirit guide. So you're not so freaked out because you've always seen them. It's like, no big deal. So now, when you go into a residential place, you go into a field or something like that, you kind of already have a kind of nice understanding of what's happening. So you're not as freaked out when you walk in, go, okay, I see somebody looks like somebody's grandfather there. But it could be your spirit guide. It makes a huge difference because I know myself. I mean, I didn't see any ghosts, and I haven't seen any really ghosts. Sure. I mean, I communicate with spirit guides all the time, and angels, and just recently angels, which is a new thing for me. It kind of freaked me out at first, to be honest with you. And I've been doing this for a while. But when an angel shows up, it just, okay, what is that? Because you just don't have that recollection. Okay, what is that going on? So your background is in audio, right? Is audio yes. Audio engineer?
Yep, audio engineer. Yep, exactly.
So did you find that the equipment now is more? One of the things I found with people who do investigations through my research is that the equipment now is so sensitive, like the cameras and the audio equipment, that they can pick up all these subtle things that the normal ears can't pick up.
Correct. Oh yeah. I mean, there's, it's fun to kind of blend a little bit of the old school analog stuff, which we knew growing up, like the ribbon, I say ribbon just because that's basically what it was, but the filament that you record to, and now it's all digital, we're just, going to a hard drive, so there is differences. I mean, it's kind of, our team because I belong to a team, and it's neat is that the founder of our team still loves to use a cassette recorder, whereas the rest of us will have digital recorders. So it's kind of fun that we would then quickly try to play them back to see if one sounds a little bit better than the other. And sometimes you do. Sometimes the old cassette recordings have a little bit more of a warmer tone to it, and you sometimes feel like you can get a little bit more information or a little understanding of what the EVP might be coming through. But then there's other times too where the digitals seem to kind of grab a little bit more because the microphones are more sensitive. So it's fun when we can kind of do both at the same time, because then we can kind of see if we're getting everything, or if we're not getting one, we're getting a little bit more of the other. So it's a cool balance, but it's neat that, we at least are open to do that. Cause a lot of teams, it's like, they just want the small little recorders and then that's it. And they run about, they can plug it into a USB and then dump their files out and go on their way. Whereas cassette, it's kind of a tricky habit nowadays where you could listen to it great, but then you gotta figure out plugs, and you gotta get adapters to get that info off to keep it. So a little bit of work on the back end, but at the same time, it is kind of fun to joggle between the two.
Yeah, that's probably why they have you on the team, right? It's like, here, just give it to Adam. Let him deal with the old school stuff there. Let's,
right.
Because I mean, that stuff is ancient technology, man. It's crazy. And it's funny because I grew up with that same thing. I mean, I grew up with the same progression of Well, you had to basically the vinyl, then you went to 8 tracks, and then you went to cassettes, and and then there was CDs, and that was the big thing. Everything was like CDs, and
Yep.
so I gotta ask, how does he find his tapes? Like, is there several manufacturers out there that produce
There,
tape?
there is. So
Hmm.
shockingly enough, I mean, now you're only, I think it's, I'm trying to remember the exact name brand, but there's only one to pick. So, and if people are, Amazon shoppers, they're on there too. But if you go to a local store, and you do get one that's kind of still open to a wide variety of things, you still will occasionally find, some old school cassettes still sitting in a back corner, dusty as all get out. But
Oh my God, that's hilarious. But the thing is, you got to make sure you have a player, because you got to make sure you keep one of those old players from 1980s or something like that to make sure he does that. So,
and it did. And the funny part was, this year it died for the very first time since I've been part of the team, which was I started meeting up with them in 2012, and then 2013 I became an official member. And all that time it was the same recorder, and this year it finally died. So I'm like, so some of that old school stuff still hangs in there pretty good if you think
yeah,
about
well,
it.
yeah, well, it's they say you don't build them like they used to. That
Yeah.
old saying, and it's so true. I mean, some of the stuff is so disposable nowadays. It's a crime to have some of those things that are manufactured now. It's bad.
Yep.
So let's talk about some of the things that you investigated over the last little while.
Mhm.
So just start with the most recent one. What was something that you just mostly investigated?
I mean, the easiest one of all is the actual location that we host public and private investigations from, and that's in Dundee, Michigan, which is if you're looking at the maps and you see Ohio and Michigan, it's probably about a good 20. If you're looking right at the border, it's about a good 20-25 minutes north of the Ohio border line, and it's a little bit towards the middle of the state, but Dundee's, a village. It's actually a village. They don't even call it a city. So it's the village of Dundee. But there's a location called the Old Mill and Museum. It's got a big history to it. I mean, all the way back from the early 1800s. And it's started off as a grist mill. And I should say, I take that back. The Potawatomi Indians, Native Americans, were on those in and around that area because there's a river that flows through. And once settlers came in and took over, but they were using the water obviously to power things. And so, like I said, they did grist mill, they harvesting buckwheat, flour, all that big stuff, and had the old stone wheels, which they still have one, encased, out front, and that's still pretty neat to look at once in a while. But eventually got to the point where it got abandoned, and then it sat for a good number of years, and then a famous automaker came through and decided to purchase it, which most people know it is Mr. Henry Ford himself. So he came through, and his thing was trying to utilize as much natural resources that he could to do things. So what he had done was he took it over because the village was going to tear it down because it was an eyesore. There was some prohibition stuff going on. So there was all this illegal activity. And but he wanted to use it because it was, again, right along the river. And so he built it up. He even actually blocked off the dam, because there's actually part of a dam where he blocked it off. He had Irish stonemasons come out and tore up. And you're going to love this part. Tore up all the bedrock. But what's the bedrock? Limestone.
Interesting.
So he took all that limestone and built up a lot of the walls that still are there today. And obviously, we know a lot about limestone. It holds a lot of energy. And so you can imagine if the walls could talk, which they do, but he built it up. He actually created a generator. So that's the thing that was powered by the water. So he would let the water come in, and it does that whole thing where it's spinning and it powering it up. And where he made there was welding tips that then would get, once they were made, they would get shipped to the factories, to do all the welding on the cars. So great history there and things. And then eventually, he moved on because then, processes and everything changed and so forth. But the main thing was there's not any documented deaths that happened in the old mill. And so we know there's been drownings and things on the river and stuff like that, but there was nothing that's ever been officially said inside. Doesn't mean it didn't happen. It just never got documented. So that's always been the big mystery, is why is then the old mill haunted? But, we believe, and others agree with us, is, waterway is like our highways, how we travel to get someplace quickly. And we believe that, the river, is just kind of that highway for spirit activity. And so they come through and somehow find a place to hang out. And we get occasional spirits that'll come in for a couple weeks and stay and hang out, and then on the way they go. And then we have some that just stick around. So, but to answer your question in the long story is that, yeah, it's one of the ones that we go to all the time because we are hosting public and private investigations. And so we're there, quite a bit. Right now we don't have anything scheduled for June, so we'll be back in July, but the pandemic kind of made things a little difficult and stuff, but we did get some time in, and but we are there. And so that's one of the coolest things, is just being able to go there and investigate whenever we want. Essentially, we have the keys to the place. So it's kind of cool that I have that, we have that as our go-to place whenever we want to go.
Now, as far as actual paranormal events, what are some of the things that you find actually happen there? Is it just basically just things moving, cupboards here, shadows? Like, what are some of the things that you see throughout the place? I mean, I know it's probably going to be variable depending on what spirit is there, but what are some of the normal things that you see?
Well,
Or here.
Right. Well, pretty much a little bit of everything, all the way up until you get into, like, the bad stuff, the real, we don't really get the dark evil things. We don't get, there's no demons there, that kind of stuff. But you get about everything. I mean, you're definitely going to, you'll obviously everything matters. There's no guarantees for anything, but you definitely can get video of unusual things that you just can't debunk as hard as you try. You can get photos of things you just have a difficult time explaining. You'll see shadows. You'll definitely see apparitions. You'll hear disembodied voices. You'll hear them knocking. You'll hear footsteps throughout the place. And, that's, again, all this is, we go extensively trying to make sure that, it's not something we can explain, and that's huge. We're not a team that just sit there and say everything we hear or capture is 100% genuine. We know we wouldn't be doing, our jobs, if we weren't trying to rule everything out at first. And, people have captured things and we'll look at it and we're like, that's pretty much dust. That's not quite an orb, but they're like, oh no, it's, and you try to explain it and they don't want to listen. It's fine. But, but there's a lot of times, and even then I just said orbs, but we've seen orbs with our very own eyes, not even through a camera lens or anything. You can actually watch, like, tiny little white lights just dancing around, and you're just like looking over, just, holy smokes, are you kidding me right now? Like, you seeing dancing little lights. Okay. All right. But yes, pretty much a little of everything goes on there, which I think is great for, beginners and people that just, are hoping that they'll get something out of it, because that's what we try, is to hope that our spirits are going to do something. And, surprisingly, it's been great. It's pretty rare to not have something, even if it's just when they're listening back to or watching back their footage or recordings and things, that they'll get something, at some point in the evening.
Yeah, that's always so nice, because it's always nice to have, like, confirmations, like anything, as a medium, it's always about confirmation, right? And as somebody who's sitting for you, they love to have that confirmation that spirit's with them, that their loved ones are still there. And it's always nice for people who are really not looking specifically for a loved one or having a mediumship reading, but it's just to know that spirit still is here, and you can see witness what's happening with that too as well.
Yep. Yeah, it's so cool, because even then, like, on public and private investigations night, I always, at first I used to be pretty cautious about, because when I first got with the team, I was already on my shamanic path, but I wasn't doing mediumship. And then the team's lead medium at the time took me under her wing and just kind of started helping me open that door. And so that kind of progressed over several years of going on normal private investigations, residential homes and things, and working other events. And even at the old mill itself is just practicing in some way, because I was truly opening that door. And, to be able to get things. And when we are having events, I kind of shut things down. It's one thing that I've done as a medium, is that I envision a switch, because, people are paying to investigate, whether it is a public or private, they're not there to listen to me. I'm going to, explain what's going on. And, I do help with the tours before we turn them loose. But I always tell them, I'm like, I'm not here to just kind of make things up and start telling you guys this is over here and this is over here there. And so I tell them, I shut down. I said, this is your night, not mine. I said, I can come back another time and turn things on and have a conversation with them. And there's still some spirits that I like to kind of turn up. You kind of get the dial instead of the switch and just kind of talk for a couple of minutes just to kind of greet a few of them, because there's some that are pretty amazing, to get to talk to and things like that. But overall, I kind of shut down when it's not really our night.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you about that because, as a medium, stuff like that, we're always kind of open to spirit, right? And, in some situations, you got to make sure that you got that protection, or you shut it down, because you don't want to have anything lingering attached to yourself or transfigure over you. And you're trying to get rid of it for the rest of the night, and just trying to do a whole bunch of clearing. And you got sage all over the place and you're just smudging yourself, 24/7. Yeah.
Yep.
I was always interested how you did that, because I know in investigations, I've talked to another a rescue medium, and they talk about how there is some, I wouldn't say, like, she doesn't really call it evil, but just says misguided spirits.
Yes.
And she says that you really got to really pay attention to that, and you got to make sure that, do you find, because I don't know the rest of your group, but are the only medium in the group?
There is, there's one, so we have we have a lot of sensitives. So at least they're empathic enough to where they understand the energies that is, going on. They can sense it, but do they know what's exactly happening? So there's some that are developing, or some that they're happy at being sensitives. We do have one that, there's a possibly, well, pretty much going to be a new member that she's been really gifted, and she's been really kind of coming into play. And I can kind of follow along. Like when she's doing something, I can kind of like flip on a little bit and just see if she's on the right track and be like, okay, cool. She's right where she needs to be. She's doing it. And she's sort of new at it too. So, and even then, we still, some of the mediums that have been with the team in the past, once in a while show up. And so it's good to have them around, but not everybody is, most people are, the true investigators. They're lugging around the equipment and things like that and having fun, capturing whatever they can on all that fun stuff. So, but mostly sensitives, with a couple of us that do the mediumship.
Okay. Have you ever lost anybody? I mean, lost in a way where you're all together and all of a sudden, like, spirit envelops them, and it's like, okay, now we're in a situation where we got to kind of wrangle the spirit in, because Susie over there, who's a sensitive, just kind of got overwhelmed.
Yes. As a matter of fact, yes. And I'm one of those that had one of those moments, and it was a good thing, even though it was a horrible, horrible situation. But we were investigating, and for me, a lot of the first signs, when you notice that there's something with the energy, you don't know what yet, but you're like, okay, something's going on. We're going to see where this goes. And for me, it's a lot of temple pressure. So if I'm in it where I know there's definitely going to be some spirit activity, so I'll start feeling a little bit of pressure in the temples, kind of like a minor headache in a way, but nothing painful. And it's like, okay, well, unfortunately, this particular night, it was as if somebody took their thumbs and just were pushing so hard into my temples that it almost felt like my head was going to get crushed. And that was the first time, because even up to that point, I've dealt with a lot of dark stuff. I've never, I know I'm not qualified for anything true demonic, if it really is 100% demonic, which I've never had that, pop up. But
nice.
I've been up to the dark stuff. I've dealt with dark stuff, and that stuff doesn't bother me. I just kind of keep that attitude about myself where I know I'm better than they are, but not in a way where the ego's taking over. So it's that persona that, you have to present to them to be like, you're just not going to get to me. No matter what kind of stuff you're going to throw at me, you're going to try to hurt me, and stuff. It's not going to work, And so I thought I was doing okay. I thought I was tough, and it just kept getting worse. And as I'm dealing with this, the other medium, she felt like she was getting hit in the legs because her knee kept buckling. So she kept falling down, and her husband was there. So he's like holding her up, and they're kind of pulling her back away from our little circle. And I'm like, okay, this is really starting to get bad for me. And finally, I'm definitely, changing colors, and I finally said, I got to walk out. I really got to, I know, I normally don't have to do it, but I got to. And so I ended up walking out. This was probably about April. time frame several years ago, and I went outside, and it was, temperatures were cooler. It wasn't quite warm. And, I was outside, I usually wear short sleeves because I like my arms to be exposed to, spiritual activity because I can feel them if they're going to be holding on or touching and things. And I was outside in this colder weather, and I didn't even know it was cold outside. Didn't feel it. And, I think I was out there for a good half an hour, 45 minutes. And when I thought I felt good enough, I came back inside. I still didn't look too good in the face, but sat down for probably another good hour. And then I finally felt like I got my energy back. I felt that, my color was restored. And then, immediately went right back to the spot where it happened. And I had a conversation with it, and realized it was a powerful spirit, and it was no joke, but it was learning curve for me to realize that if I'm in those situations, I know how I got to handle myself different. So as much as I didn't like it at the time, it's definitely been beneficial moving forward.
Yeah, I've had so many incidents during readings over the years, and when I was first doing it, it's like, man, this sucks. Like because you feel all this energy, your body's changing. It's hard to adapt to it, and you're just kind of losing your mind on it. One of the things I wanted to talk to you about is about orbs.
Mm-hmm.
And now a lot of people talk about orbs, and especially now with the digital cameras, it's pretty easy, and it's most common now, depending on where situations is, you pick up orbs through your digital camera.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people say that's spirit in spirit form, because because of the shape of an orb, it's round. That's the best way for spirit to show up. So is an orb spirit, or what, or is it just something, random piece of ectoplasm left over from spirit? Like what is an orb?
Yeah, I mean, to me, um, so I've changed my stance on orbs for several years, especially once I finally got into this. And the more I started investigating with the team, and even just going on my own to other locations that had stuff, you capture these things, and I think with the mediumship, it's kind of nice because you can kind of, like, again, just even being an empath, the energy. So if you feel that there's an energy here, and then you're starting to capture what could have be the spirit in orb form, then you feel like you're kind of starting to, maybe I'm onto something. Maybe there is something truly here, even though it could easily, be debunked as dust or moisture, and, something that's just not legit, or a bug, but for me, I need to try to be there in that moment. And I don't take away from anybody else's, I mean, if they were there, they have a better understanding of what's going on. But even then, for me, I mentioned it earlier, for me, if it's a true legit orb, and you really want to get to that point of where it's difficult to debunk it, it's got to be a solid. I don't care about the shape as much, but I don't want to see through it. It just rules out dust, moisture, anything else. But if you can get a solid color, and some have been different shapes, some are still perfectly round, but I don't want to see through it. And to me, that just spells a little bit more of a legit orb to it versus something see-through. I've seen stuff, I've had stuff on me. There's an infamous photo of me where in our old mill, there's an orb that's not only over my arm, but again, this is where the mediumship came into play. I had literally had a green, like I'm talking green orb all over my elbow. Now, the interesting thing is it was a resident spirit at our old mill that knows me and always grabs onto my left arm. So for it to show up on camera, it was pretty fascinating because it's pretty rare. But it was neat that it was big. It literally covered like my whole elbow area. And it's like, but at the same time, I was feeling it. And even then, people come over, put their hand near me, and could feel the temperature difference. So, and it, it's a little see-through, but the size of it, and just how some of because it wasn't a perfect circle. It was because I think it was still changing as it's a female spirit, as she was kind of holding on to my arm, moving a bit. So you can definitely see a circular thing, but some of the bands that, were really dark green. So, but when you look at it, you're just like, okay, I feel a little bit better about that, because I can use other abilities, or, if there's other people that are capturing at the same time, then you're like, okay, you were really onto something. But I'm just personally into the point where I just don't want to see through them. It just helps rule out things. Doesn't mean it isn't, I just don't want to see through it because it just stands out easier for me to be like, you know what, you definitely got something that's interesting. And I can't just automatically say it's dust or moisture, whatever, because that's the debate. And I know there's people have these debates all the time, every day about it. It's like, well, that's fine. You go ahead. I'm just telling you my opinion. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just telling you how I feel, and what I've done in my research and investigating has proved orbs to me. If I can't see through it and it definitely is unique, we're on to something.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's what a lot of people think right now too, as well. I mean, I've seen different orbs. I've seen a lot of beautiful photos over the years, and I think I read this book. I can't remember the author, if I can get it right. There was called the Orb Project. It was the Michelle Beckwith or something, I think was the name. I believe the book is called the Orb Project, and they had it was a minister, I think, who actually wrote the book, and he
Wow.
talked a lot about orbs and spirit and stuff like that, and again documenting the evolution of an orb and how it changes and evolves and things like that. And I just
That's
found it so
great.
fascinating, because then once you see somebody's in a picture, like you look at somebody's digital photo and you go, hey, wait a minute, that's an orb. Hey, that's spirit. And it's like, no, it isn't. That's just a camera. And no, that's spirit.
You're right. Yeah, it's so fun how can be such a heated topic for a lot. And I've got friends that just like absolutely don't even want to hear that word, and they'll use a lot of explanatives. When somebody says the word orb, they bleep in orbs. I die laughing because it's fun when I get to be around those people, because I get a kick out of it. But I get it. Like I said, it's just they've really got to be shown something that's without a doubt you can't. Because like I said, if you can say it looks exactly like dust and you can compare it to other dust, but at the same time you can say, well, but here's a spirit and they both look identical, how can you truly sit there and say it is or isn't? Because you're sitting there playing that game, and we're on the notion of, if you can say it's either or, then it's better just throw it out. Hold on to it, because you never know, maybe it might come back up again, but hold it. But don't sit there and say, till you're blue in the face, that this is legit a spirit, and you're just thumping your chest and you're running around just showing everybody in the world that this is it. But it's like, if there's a controversy, where some people don't think it is, but like I said, if you can get it to where it's really unique, then you're gonna make those people that are skeptical, or those in the field that are harder on evidence, they're gonna have to like, oh, well, that's interesting. I don't know, I can't prove it's this or that, but you might have caught something there.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, have you guys done any investigations around physical mediumship? Have you heard about that?
I'm trying to remember. It sounds familiar, but
that's when the medium has spirit go over top of them, and they actually move objects. So they're basically locked in a chair in a dark room, and they move all these different objects, and they touch people and stuff like that. Have you guys ever did any investigations around that?
Never done it. And and I'm around a lot of people that, I'm friends with a lot of people that are on the TV, on the shows and stuff like that. And I can't even think of them ever talking about it. That sounds awesome. I mean, we've done things that kind of like get close to something like that, where, some people are doing like the Estes method and stuff like that, where you're blindfolded with headphones on, and they're asking questions through like an SB7, and that person's then throwing information out there, which you're hoping that is answering them back, kind of thing. And but I do a lot of other things that try to, it's a version of it where I do a lot of remote viewing, and that's one thing that I do claim is sort of a specialty, and it's interesting is that that's really helped out with the pandemic, because I've been able to still work on cases and not leave my home, and I've been able to do cases around the world, which is awesome.
So I don't mean to interrupt you, but can you maybe just explain what remote viewing is for people who are not familiar with remote viewing?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So there's two terms for it. There's remote viewing and astral projection. If you really put them up side by side, they're pretty close. I did a talk on that once, and I kind of put them side by side. If you really look at it, they're pretty much the same. But I was taught remote viewing, so I still like to use the word remote viewing. I do recognize it as astral projection as well. But essentially what it is, and I like putting it this way for people, because people that aren't, I don't like to go into big words and technical stuff, on it. But I always say, imagine yourself going into spirit form, lifting up out of your body and being able to travel to, let's say, your parents' house, your grandparents' house, a friend's house, but with permission. As I say that, I always get written permission before I do any remote work, unless it's a public place. That's a whole different story. But again, you sort of turn yourself into a ghost. You lift out. You literally can feel yourself pulling out of your body. You can see what's going on. Sometimes it's difficult in the beginning for new people, but you travel to a location and you can do work, whether it's like I do healing. So I could do healing on a client, or I could do an investigation. And it's neat is I kind of use that technique to help our team out. Because if we know we're going to be on site, I want to know what are we going to be coming up against? Is it going to be useful? So the remote viewing is good in that aspect because of, it shortens our amount of time at a location. Because we have done it where when I've done that and we walk into the place, I'm being like, these are the 2 rooms that we need to focus on, because that's where they charge up. This is where they relax. And these are where we need to go. And sure enough, team goes in there, goes right to these specific spots in the home. Boom, we get all the information we need. We get physical evidence that we can show the clients, proving. And then, however they want us to handle it, where it's removing it, cleansing the house, that sort of thing. But it's another amazing tool that we've been able to use, and it has. I mean, anybody that's ever done investigations, I mean, the amount of time you can spend at a location, and a lot of times the homeowners are going to be with you, and they're not going to want to be up all night. So it's a great way to cut a corner to shorten our time down. But that's, like I said, it's fun to do it, and it's really helped out in a lot of situations, and helped me do, tons and tons more cases, without the team, because people are just saying, I got this activity. Can you help me out? Okay, sure. Let's plan something out.
Yeah, it must make like just the advance notice, so like it's just going into a place and understanding what's going on. So a couple of things I want to ask you about that is, how do you protect yourself in that form? Because obviously we know how to protect ourselves when we're in this form and we're doing spirit work. But now that you're very similar to what you're being investigated, you're kind of in that 4th dimensional energies, and you're moving through that. How do you protect yourself for not getting entrapped in that environment?
It's, well, and like most of us that we have a belief system, in whether it's religion or whether it's some type of spiritual backing. And, I definitely call upon my guides and the creator, and any angels that want to sit there and be on the lookout or help me out. Because when I'm going to do something like that, I'm setting the intention. 1, what am I going to be doing? And then 2, I have my guides right there with me when the intentions are set. So when I am traveling and then doing the work, they're right there with me just in case I need any help, or in any way they want. Because if they, something's not right, they're going to poke me and be like, hey, pay attention, or, do this, or sometimes, I don't even notice they're there, because sometimes I'm just so involved with getting, the job done, in a way. But I know they're there, and I just have that bond with them that I'm good to go. They got my back, and I feel comfortable enough to where I can go do those things. And especially if it is, because most cases, they're not bad. They're average as far as, what you're dealing with. Spirits are a little, cranky. I think you were talking earlier, the one, I like saying cranky ghost, because that's essentially what they are to me. It's just want to, like, grumble and, get out of my house, that sort of thing. But, and even then I still kind of think, like I mentioned earlier, I still kind of have that confidence in me that I'm stronger than they are. And that way I got that first, that's my first line. And then all my, the creator, guides, angels, all behind me then. So it's kind of like this big, massive, bubble around me. That's just like, let's just do what we got to do. And, we got you. If you need help, we're here for you. If not, and you got it, no problem.
Yeah, you got your entourage and you're ready to go.
Yeah.
Now, do you actually send white light prior to the event? Do you do that too? Let's say you're going to a house that has maybe have some activity. Do you kind of said, well, we'll throw a little extra light down there just to kind of just shield yourself and protect it?
I don't at first. So what I like to do is I try to do the whole, I like to then, depending on the case and depending on what the clients are looking for. So I'll do the fly on the wall feature. So I literally imagine myself as a little teeny tiny bug, in spirit form. And I will go to the location. But what's neat is, and it's worked time and time again, is because I'm such a small little thing, the spirit or spirits that are there that are causing all the mischief and everything, they don't even know it. They don't even have a clue. I mean, I've even flown by them just to see if I can get a reaction, like they would notice it. And they, for whatever reason, they don't. Because I think just like us, you can get tunnel vision on what your role is, what you're trying to do. They're not even paying attention to something that's just flying around. They just don't see it. But what is interesting is then when I'm like, okay, it's time to like confront them and like, what are we going to do? Are you either going to knock this off or whatever? So then I'll snap and I'll kind of go into full form of myself. And it's always the same reaction every time. It is the old saying of a deer in headlights. Even in spirit form, they're just like, their eyes get real big and they're just flipping out and they're like, holy smoke. So, but then depending on what I'm going to do, because usually I kind of give the clients some scenarios of like, well, if I see this, I'm just going to go ahead and, remove it. Or if I think that, I can get them to kind of calm down, I'll then do a cleanse. And that's where then I'll pull in that white light and then use it to just I go room by room, and to where I kind of just keep moving around the house, depending on, if it's multiple stories and basement. I even go out into the property a little bit around it. So that way nothing's kind of trying to crawl underneath and get back in, finding a way in. But I do that. And I always kind of leave one, like a front door left. So that if they're going to be, trying to run from me, I'm just going to keep going around until I get them in that final opening. And then if they don't go out on their own, I'm going to kind of kick them out, so to speak. But, I'll, if they don't want to go out, I give them every opportunity to go on their own. But if they're really going to be a pain, then, I give a little extra, boot,
little extra love to help them out.
but yeah, so I do the light usually once I determine what's going to go on. Period. It's going to happen at some point. It's just, am I going to do it first or am I going to do the removal and then cleanse it? So that way it kind of builds up a protection for the owners.
Okay. So how do you differentiate between something that like a thought form that maybe they've picked up, the family has picked up and brought home to the house versus, spirit or, anything like that? Because a lot of times, from my understanding now, that a lot of the stuff that we feel is paranormal is basically just thought forms that we've been picking up. It's just like extra goo that we pick up from other people, your neighbors, your coworkers, on the bus, subway, wherever else you're traveling. And we kind of bring this stuff home that's not ours.
I try, well, and I'm one of those mediums that love to do things as cold as possible. Try not to get as much information. Sometimes the clients are just fired out before I could even like say, no, don't tell me. I don't want to know yet, but sometimes they do. And I'm okay with then. I've gotten to the point where I'm okay with them telling me at least what they're experiencing, but I don't. And then I will ask the questions of like, are you doing investigating? Are you, watching scary movies, just to sort of, are you, is that like horror, genre? Is that like a favorite topic of yours, and kind of pick through and word my questions to the clients in a way to where what would be the root cause for the activity? Because then, if they answer the questions a certain way and I don't feel it was something that they legitimately did, and maybe it was just there in the property already and it's just finally popping out, or maybe it's the land that they're on. And so it might necessarily have been something that died right there on the house, but maybe, outside the house or something. So now it's just entering because maybe they're in a depressive state, maybe they got mental issues because, things have been falling apart for them. And so we know that then leads to attacks because it's like, oh, this person's vulnerable. I'm going to get inside their head and mess with them, So there's like a series of things that I, will hit them up with, but still try not to get a lot of details. So that way, when I do jump in, whether it's physical or, remote viewing, it helps me out to understand, how much of this is mental versus how much of it is just something that it's mental, I guess, in a lot of ways, because if obviously they're being attacked, then they're in a weakened state. And that's the whole point, is figuring out how they got into that state. But I do the best I can to try to weed out as much as possible to rule it out. So that way it helps me determine what kind of things I need to do, because, I'll cleanse the house, I'll get rid of spirits. But then I also, the big role is then taking care of the client. Do I need to cleanse them? Do they have an attachment from all this? Do I got to, cut the cord, so to speak, and then shower them with white light. So there's, it's amazing how all this different stuff you have to like think through and figure out and get, and adapt over the years, because every situation's a little different. There's nothing usually the same.
Yeah, that's so important. Now, have you ever been to a place where like a typical historical site where there's been a war zone, or or some type of fighting? You ever do investigations of that?
Yeah, I mean, there's been some battlefields. I mean, actually, the funny part is the old mill has signs of a big battle that happened. Oh man, I'm going to blank on the years, but 1800s. But there was big battle, and it was like, a lot of people died, and it happened. So there's two major roads that go up into Michigan, and we're sort of in this middle one where Dundee is. Well, closer to the other one, which is actually closer to like Detroit and stuff. That's where like the main battle happened. But then a lot of the people were going down the rivers and things like that were wounded and dying. And, so all along the river, you got all this kind of energy that's there. So there's a lot of times you do pick up on battle things, and I've been to Civil War places before, and I've gotten some that energy. There's a place in downtown Detroit called Fort Wayne, which not the city, but an actual fort. It's an old 5-star Civil War fort. It never saw action, but it was a big training facility. But there's constant, photos of Civil War, Union, soldiers and things. And so, I mean, I picked up on stuff there. And so it's interesting, and there was accidents. There was one of the caissons where the cannons where one of the magazines blew up. I mean, killed some people and stuff. So, I mean, it is fascinating, but there's some other places I'd like to go, prisons. I've been to prisons, and you can imagine the attention and energies with that, those kind of locations.
I would never want to be there. What about museums? I'm always fascinated about museums too, as well, because you ever get any like, energies or attachments to old stuff that maybe they're still part of it?
That's one of the things that, people seem to think too of our old mill is there, because what's neat is on the museum side, the older side of the building, there's 3 floors, and the main floor, when you first walk into the place, it's called the timeline, and it literally shows the whole timeline of when before the village of Dundee was settled, and then with the Indians, the Native Americans, and it goes all the way up until current times. And so there's all this information and great details and old photographs, and then you go up to the 2nd and 3rd floors, and then you start showing what it was like pre-electricity, roped beds, there's all the rope and things, and the old farming equipment, and storefronts. And then there's a Native American section where there's a replica of a wigwam, and some of the things that they would make, and dugout canoe and stuff. And so a lot of those items, definitely got something going to it, because we, some people know this person, some people might have forgotten his name, but if you guys know John Zaffis, he did a show called Haunted Collector for a number of years. And that was his sole thing on the show, was just, they would go to a place, hey, there's activity. And then they would always find some type of artifact that was triggering a lot of the activity. And so they would either take it and get rid of it, and then the activity quiets down, or they would try to bless it enough to where it wouldn't cause as much activity. We have a Parafest usually in November, and the first couple of years we had him there, he just loved being up on the 2nd and 3rd floor, because it's just loaded with artifacts. I mean, oh yeah. And another one, we have a chair that one of the directors, I don't know if it was father or grandfather passed away, and so we have a chair that's somebody passed. And so so it is, yeah, there's some legit things that definitely speak out to us here and there. A couple mannequins, which is that's kind of an odd one, but we have mannequins that have some of the clothing that would have been worn, and dress wear and things. And so sometimes the mannequins tend to do things. We even have another mannequin that is hilarious. If you take photos of her, and she's sitting in a mini church scene, there's a pew, and then there's a church organ right there. And if you take photos of her and you look back at it, and I don't care what kind of camera you got, you swear to God, it was somebody truly sitting there, because for whatever reason, it does not look fake. It looks like the skin is alive. And her eyes seem to follow you. So even if you don't have a lot of room to take it, but if you,
freaky,
her eyes will look at you, and everybody, we've had people come running down like, oh my gosh, look at this. I'm like, yeah, see, it looks real, doesn't it? so
So you
it
just
can
think,
be fun.
so you think that's just her spirit just playing tricks, and she just basically, transfiguring
It's
onto
gotta
the
be.
mannequin?
Yeah, it's gotta be because and it's not like these mannequins. I mean, they're meant to just wear the clothing, so they weren't really set with any. Now, maybe it's the clothing, and the clothing is, maybe the spirit was attached to the clothing, and it just kind of absorbed into the mannequin. I'll go with that kind of theory, but it's weird as it's not all the time. So even if we're there every single week, we could be going to the same mannequins and never get anything. Nobody will talk to us, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, then it'll finally come to life, and you're like, okay, what's the deal? Why now? But so I think it's just if they're going to be with the mannequins, it's just that kind of once in a blue moon activity. But yeah, I would go with the clothing effect, that it's absorbed, that energy from the the person that used to wear them absorbed into the mannequin, not that a spirit jumped into the mannequin and took it over, which we've seen that in dolls and things like that, and that's the huge history of those things, which we do have dolls and things too all over the place, and some look creepy as all get out.
Yeah, that stuff freaks me out. Yeah, that was one of the things I've learned is like, always be mindful of secondhand products. It may be a good find, but you don't know what you're bringing home with that. So, which could be
I've
a real
never
problem.
done that. That's the one thing, once I've really got into this field, and especially the mediumship and, being empathic and feeling the energy, I truly have not ever gone to an antique store. As much as I would love it, just because I do love history. I mean, that's a lot of us are. We love history. But to be able to go into an antique store, I don't know what's going to happen to me.
Can you imagine?
I mean, I have trouble sometimes going to grocery stores, and I got to put up walls and walls and walls because I'm shutting down as hard as I can, because I do not want to be bothered by stuff, whether it's, somebody standing next to me and it's their loved ones, or it's just spirits, just because the energies are all over the place in those in stores. And
yeah, that it never ceases to amaze me, like how brutal. I mean, I always say, like, if you're not healing somebody with your energy, you're hurting somebody. And most people are so unaware of what they bring around on a daily basis. Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. Do you guys have a website where do you have like pictures and post, like, things that are posted from like all these crazy things that you guys have seen?
Yeah. So if you can go to the what is it? If you look up our team name, it's SWPI, Spirit World Paranormal Investigations, and Facebook page. You can just look up SWPI. You might have to spell it out. I just blanked. What are we? Michigan Ghost? Is that it? Let me double check it, because we haven't been able to say it in so long. I think it's Michigan Ghost, but because I know we were like one of the few that could get that name. Let me make sure, because I don't want to give out the wrong one.
Yeah, we don't want to make sure we don't do any free advertisement for that, for those guys. But yeah, it's always so fascinating. I always enjoyed the watching those shows too as well. The Ghost Hunters. I mean, even like the X-Files really kind of intrigued you. A lot of people back in the days, the old original X-Files.
Yep.
Talked about spirit and ghost and different paranormal activities, and it'd be really interesting to see if that whole classification of X-Files from the FBI and what they had, and go down to Area 51 and see all the crazy stuff. And
I was talking, by the way, it is michiganghost.com.
michiganghost.com.
Okay.
Right.
And now there's some old photos. You're going to, people that look me up, you're going to see, if you go to that one, you're going to find super old photos of me. So you're going to see me short hair, because Michael gets to see what I look like right now. But, I had short hair and no facial hair. And now I have long hair and a full beard. So
you got
big difference when you find some of those old
beard going on.
Yeah, it is. It is. And even the one team member who's been there since roughly the beginning, he bought me this shirt, and it actually has a ruler on it, and it talks about the different lengths, and like if it gets down to like your belly button area, it's like God. I love it. I'm almost there. I'm getting close to it. But
yeah, it's I can see how long. I said that must. I mean, I can barely grow facial hair. It is. I mean, when it does get to a beard, it's just so bad. I have to shave it off. I just can't get to that manageable spot. But I commend you on that beard. That's a good looking beard.
This is 2018. January 2018 is when I started this. That's how long it's. So it's only been 3 years.
Jeez, you can donate that.
3.5 now. But
you could probably donate that hair the way it grows.
I've done my normal head hair. I've done that. I cut it off and you do locks of love, I think it is, and so you help out with wig making for kids that have illnesses and things. So yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. So if people are looking for you, Adam, and if they want to have pick up your services, they either want a reading or they want a house clearing or some investigation. Where can they find you, brother?
Right now, the best place is Facebook, because it's free for me right now. And I've been trying. It was funny. It was last year when the pandemic started. That was going to be the year of the website. This was where I was going to finally buckle down and get that all set up. And then I'm like, ooh. And then I still work a normal day job. And then I was like, and we got shifted to part time. And so then I'm like, well, I guess I'm not going to be spending any money right now. I've got to really hold on because I'm married with a couple young kids, and so I need every penny. But yeah, that's on the menu to eventually get to. Probably not this year, but because I am working on a logo as well. But Facebook, just look up Adam the Black Swamp Medium. That's the best place. That's where I do a lot of posting. Sometimes depending on the weeks and what I'm doing, you'll get, maybe a photo of something, whether it's like a cool inspirational message. Cause my thing is always trying to push positivity. And so, I don't try to put a lot of negative stuff in there. I'm always trying to uplift people. That's always been my thing. We're in enough negative as it is, but I'll do things in there and I'll put posts in there, things that are coming up. And I do live shows, one on my page and then one with another friend on a different page. So, it's pretty cool because and I'll just share it real quick, but I do Saturday mornings at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. It's called mid-morning. Mid-morning medium chat. And it's essentially, basically sitting around the breakfast table is how I designed it. It was, sometimes I'll have things that are been going on with me. So it's fun to share and how it might relate to the viewers and maybe they've dealt with this or maybe it might prepare them for something. And so the idea is we're just kind of sitting there and we're sharing things. And I have people that, watch and the great questions, because I'll take any question at any single point. So there's never a true topic for the show, but it's just meant like, maybe you thought this, maybe you dreamt something, and let's just talk around the breakfast table and we'll see what we can come up with. So it's kind of a fun morning show. And even if you can't make it, you can always watch it back. And I also take the audio version of it and dump it down into a podcast. And so that way, if you're at work and you just want to at least hear about it, you can pop that on there and not feel like you're watching something. So
the podcast is it on Anchor? Or
it is on Anchor. Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Yeah. Gotta love Anchor.
I do.
I love Anchor, but unfortunately being Canadian, I can't monetize. So it sucks. So if those Anchor people are listening, maybe you guys can help me out here.
Right. Yeah.
I know this Canadian, please.
Right. I've done the problem is because I'm just taking the straight audio and obviously I'm not doing the breaks because I've read how like you're supposed to put a break in the middle. And the problem is if you don't put that break in, I can't get more sponsors to jump on. So I have the one that's just talking about Anchor
at the beginning,
you get one person to watch. It's a whopping 1 penny. So I think I'm up to 21 cents since February.
Oh,
I'm breaking it in.
Well, that's 21 more cents than I have, brother.
Right. But absolutely. Yeah. So
so hopefully things will change. We'll see what happens. But brother, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your Sunday to be here on the show. If you guys are looking for somebody to do an investigation on the house, Adam comes highly recommended. And we'll get your place all cleaned up and make sure there's no spirits haunting you and freaking you out. And that being said, Adam, thanks so much for being on the show today.
Michael, it has been a pleasure and an honor. I've really had a great time. Hey, you ever want me back? We'll hit some other topics if you ever need in the future.
Well, listen, brother, I'm almost done season 1, so season 2 for sure. Absolutely.
Okay.
And that being said, Adam, I'm just going to close off the podcast. So this has been the Metaphysical Mentor podcast with Michael Philpott. Thank you so much for joining me, and goodbye for now.